Hey guys, how's it going? It's me Yoko from Japan. Welcome back to my channel. So for those who are new here, I am Yoko. I'm Japanese. I was born and raised here in Japan and I've lived all my life here in my mother country, and I've been a huge Trump supporter since 2015. With that being said, let's talk about riots 2020 seen from Japan. So these so-called protests, which I call riots, are these peaceful? No. Are these about George Floyd? No. Are these about race? No. Are these about presidential election? Yes. Are these about Obamagate? Possibly. Are these terrorism to stop Donald Trump from being re-elected? Yes. And I may add that these are deja vu of 2016 because I actually, back in 2016, I wrote an article here. This is just conservative magazine, but so this is me, Random Yoko, and over here you can see I wrote about the funding of the leftists back then against Mr. Donald Trump. These are talking about George Soros and MoveOn.org, how people from Black Lives Matter can be very aggressive and violent and that sometimes get arrested and so on, and also relation of President Obama and so on. So my point is that this is something that I already saw 4 years ago, and they are repeating the same tactic again this year. So that's what I've been seeing. And in this video, because I am Japanese living in Japan, I would like to give you a different perspective about this. Because President Trump announced that he will designate Antifa as a terrorist organization, the news spread around the world, including my country. And I don't know what's gonna happen because I'm not familiar with legal things. However, when he announced that though, it was such a great news for Japanese people as well, because we do have Antifa in Japan. They've been proudly holding their flag. At where though? At Anti-Abe protests. They are against our Prime Minister Abe. And here's the most important part where I wanted to share the most with you in this video, which is that these Antifa people in Japan, first of all, they are leftists. And secondly, they protest all the time in different forms. And they are the same people protesting all the time, wearing a different hat each time. So one day they are red girls, the next day they are all females, the next day they're all blacks, and the next day they are all LGBT, and the next day they are Antifa. And these leftist protests here in Japan are supported by our National Diet members. What kind of National Diet members? Democrats, socialists, and communists. This is not my imagination. These are all public information because each time they proudly put up their pictures of, you know, marching and so on their social media. So the protests are supposed to be different, but each time it's the same kind of people. What's really funny though is that, so every time people with common sense see them protesting, and we're all like, I guess there can be problems like that, but every time it gives us a cringe. And that happens because leftists here are so lazy that they just import all the protests that are done in the United States. Leftists here in Japan are copying the leftists in the US. That's what they're doing. So sometimes it just doesn't make sense because the premise of our country is different from the US, you know what I mean? Speaking of copying, leftists here in Japan actually copy American leftists putting up middle fingers. So that is so funny because we Japanese do not have the culture of putting up our middle finger. So like, it's so painful to see, you know what I mean? However, this is all about propaganda, so it doesn't, like, they don't even care about the logic or what they are shouting on the street. All they want to do is to damage the impression of Prime Minister Abe. That's their goal. So for that, the mainstream media is of course on the side of them. So like the media writes in a like an effective way to attack our current administration. So their mission is accomplished each time. And my hunch is that this is what's happening throughout the world, that leftists are copying each other across the borders, and they make it seem like they have like a huge network and so on. But the funny thing is that just like you guys, people are surprised when I say that Antifa people exist in Japan as well. And people are like, what? They're in Japan too? Bah! And what that tells me is that their network might not be as strong as we think. So it's just that like non-political people jump on the fashion. Speaking of fashion, I saw Sarah Carter's article written by Jenny. It showed the Vogue magazine, you know, like obviously that's fashion. I think though that it has happened before. I think it was like Elle or some other magazine that they were treating this like anti-Trump movement as fashion and like, you know, protest fashion and so on. And like I remember seeing that, and that is very dangerous. You don't want to destroy somebody's homes or churches or businesses that they worked so hard for just for fashion. You don't want to do that. So I really hope that people will regain common sense. I do see though that sometimes like in particular areas of the United States, protesters and police are praying together, or black people protecting the police from other black people, or black people preaching other black people and so on. I really want people to realize that attacking law and order creates nothing but chaos. That's like a violent revolution, and it's not fancy, it's just blood in the end. And so so what I realized though is that what we need today is to study history, what happened back in the day, what it means to have a revolution, what it takes to build a strong nation. And what was sad was that I saw also that these rioters, they vandalized the statue of victims of communism. It was for victims of communism, and these rioters destroy that by like spraying on that statue and so on, and putting up a middle finger, and I'm speechless. There are professional agitators, I believe, but the majority of the participants, however, are just social justice warriors, and we need to educate them. And I actually want to talk a lot more, but I want to put subtitles and show this to my people as well. So if you want to hear from me more though, I will be posting more and more videos. So please start by liking and sharing this video. Also subscribe to this channel, and I have a Patreon page, so if you can support me there, that will get me going. And if you can't financially support me, I get that. In that case, follow me on Twitter at Random Yoko. I also have a Etsy store where I sell my abstract art, so check them out. All links are listed below, so check them all out. That's about it in this video, I think. So thank you guys so much for watching it till the end. So until next time, take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!